Greetings, denizens of the Empire. It's Jabari here. The wheel. One of the most primitive forms of technology that human beings have ever created. Right up there with tools as simple as fire, shelter, and spears. As often as popular culture tends to perpetuate this stereotype, it's actually far from the truth. In fact, the wheel was invented relatively recently in human history, long after other notable human events such as the advent of animal domestication and agriculture. Nevertheless, the image of the caveman with the wheel persists in popular culture, and even worse, people of sub-Saharan Africa are often criticized for having never developed this primitive tool. So in this presentation, we will be answering a few questions. Did Africans south of the Sahara really never invent the wheel? And if so, are they the only ones? And if that's the case, why? As stated in the intro, contrary to popular belief, the wheel is not some piece of ancient caveman technology. The wheel is believed to have only been independently developed perhaps 1, 2, or maybe 3 times throughout history. Its most widespread adoption likely occurred in Mesopotamia sometime between the years of 4000 BCE and 2800 BCE, and over the next few centuries, it made its way into Western Europe and east to China and beyond over the next couple millennia. This new technology then led to further developments around the world into more complex wheeled mechanisms such as cogs, water wheels, windmills, and potter's wheels. This Mesopotamian invention then made its way farther south into Africa as well. The Egyptians were known to have adopted wheeled chariots for warfare from Western Asia at least by 1250 BCE. Wheel use continued to gradually expand across the remainder of North Africa and westwards across the Sahara, and by the 12th century BCE, it had made its way as far as what is now eastern Libya and eventually reached the Maghreb by 400 BCE, as evidenced by descriptions of its contemporary use made by Herodotus. It is believed to have been adapted from the war chariot into a more peaceful version, utilized only for transport of heavy loads. From Northwest Africa, wheel technology still hadn't quite stopped expanding. It moved further still to spread south across the desert, gradually making its way into West Africa. Numerous rock art paintings of horse and ox-drawn carts corroborate this and can be found all over central and western regions of the Sahara Desert. Wheeled carts evidently reached all the way to sub-Saharan West Africa, as the most southerly depiction of a wheeled cart has been recovered from a rock engraving at Tondia, on the northwestern bend of the Niger River, a region that later came under control of the powerful Ghana, Mali, and Songhai empires. However, all paintings south of this point portray only oxen and horses without any wheeled carts behind them. By the 1st century CE, however, the spread of wheel technology into Africa appears to have not only halted, but ceased to exist completely. 2 reasons for this have been proposed, but before we cover those, I'd like to thank Happy Hippo Herbals for making this video possible. Kratom is a traditional alternative medicine that I use daily and it's highly effective. So you're probably wondering now, well, what is kratom? Kratom is a plant native to Southeast Asia and has been used by indigenous peoples of the region for centuries. After trying it out for myself, the best way I can describe its effect on me is a combination of feeling relaxed and mellow, all the while feeling focused and energetic. Similar to the energetic effects of coffee or tea, except feeling generally calm and content at the same time, and without crashing or feeling dehydrated afterwards. I pretty much just stop focusing on problems, have a general sense of well-being, and just overall happy vibes without feeling overwhelmed. It's exactly what I need when I'm tirelessly conducting research for new content and editing my videos. Bear in mind, however, that kratom is a lifestyle product that is unregulated by the FDA, so it's important to do your own research about the benefits and the risks. So, just like anything else, controlling portions and being responsible are really all there is to it. I can confidently tell you, however, that it works great for me and I highly recommend it. You can receive a 15% discount on all Happy Hippo Herbals products using my referral link down below, or my coupon code FN10 at checkout. It'll definitely help to bring some positivity into your life, all the while helping support my channel. Wheel technology had two primary uses at that point in history: military and economy, and at that particular time, warfare evolved all around the old world as horse-mounted warriors replaced chariot warriors after it was discovered just how much more effective they were in battle. Economically, wheels allowed for heavier loads to be transported more efficiently, but pack animals were even more effective over the unforgiving expanse of the sand dunes and rocky landscapes of the Sahara Desert. Wheeled transport was highly effective in regions with relatively flat and hard terrain or well-maintained road systems, both of which the Sahara lacked as a whole. This era also coincided with the domestication of the camel and the subsequent advent and adoption of the pack saddle in Saharan and eventually sub-Saharan Africa. This took place in roughly the first millennium CE. Camels are significantly more well adapted to trekking the brutal desert landscape on minimal water as opposed to horses or oxen. While it is not known with absolute certainty why the wheel disappeared from use in most of Africa, according to Richard Bulliet, the author of The Camel and the Wheel, wheel technology was virtually rendered obsolete for transportation purposes throughout the Muslim world as a direct result of the adoption of camels, and the Muslim world itself served as a buffer in trade and exchange of ideas between sub-Saharan Africa and the rest of the world. Additionally, with the aforementioned obstacles of wheeled transport in the desert, wheel use was never even all that common to begin with. With all of that being said, the adoption of the wheel was virtually killed in its infancy on the African continent, and never got a chance to take a firm foothold in the technological systems of Africa, and thus other wheel-based technologies failed to develop, innovate, or take hold on the scale experienced on the Eurasian landmass, and additionally was completely absent in the majority of sub-Saharan Africa, with the exception of the Horn. Another highly isolated exception to this rule rests in the documented use of the potter's wheel, which was used in pre-colonial Nigeria and what was once the Kingdom of Nupe. While I was unable to find any information regarding the origin of this particular device, my sources describe it as a crude potter's wheel, and if that's the case, it is possible that was not adopted from the more developed traditions of Eurasia, which may possibly indicate that it was independently developed and thus was still existing in a more recent and elementary stage of development by the time it was reported by outsiders. Apparently, the skill in this tool also had a strong tradition of only being taught to Nupe women by women. No Arab sources from West Africa confirm or deny the use of the wheel or wheel transport in the region. The Dogon people of Mali recollect an oral account of an ancient invasion of red men from the north who rode on horse-drawn chariots. However, as with any other oral account, it is very possible that its accuracy could have been corrupted by modern influence. If there is any validity to the account, however, this may represent the cultural memory of ancient wheel traditions being introduced into the region prior to the introduction of the camel. The wheel continued to remain absent in most of Africa until the 15th century, when Western Europeans began exploring the African coast, initiating the Atlantic trade, and bringing wheeled vehicles with them. The earliest known written mention of imported European wheeled vehicles in West Africa dates back to 1670 in what is now known as the Republic of Benin. A French visitor brought a gilded carriage together with the harness and bits for the horses to the King of Alada and presented it to their ruler as a gift. Later writings imply that the gift was something that the King of Alada was already familiar with, and that the wheel may have possibly already been introduced to the region centuries earlier. Kings of the later Kingdom of Dahomey, a successor state to Alada, are documented to have been pulled in carts by men, as horses were likely deemed too rare and expensive for such laborious work, as the presence of the tsetse fly in the region made it virtually uninhabitable to horses. Numerous accounts of other carriages can be found in successive centuries all the way up through the 19th century, and numerous Europeans remarked on the large number of wheeled vehicles in the city of Abomey, Dahomey's capital. They were always drawn by humans rather than animals, and were always used ceremonially rather than for utilitarian purposes. While most of these carts were of foreign manufacture, some were made indigenously, and it is documented that they could be up to 20 feet long and have been constructed in forms of trading ships, horses, and even elephants. Indigenously constructed carriages are well documented, one of which was described as being blue-green in color and having short flagstaffs on the front. Another one was described having its rear wheels replaced by a pair that was locally manufactured. The Dahomey king ordered that the roads between Abomi and Kana be carefully cleared of vegetation and maintained in order to be more conducive to his carriages. The only known non-ceremonial use of wheeled carriages in Dahomey in pre-colonial times was in 1845. The cart was used to transport a massive chain, 500 feet in length, intended to secure prisoners. However, in the end, the Badagry warriors actually ended up seizing the cart from the Dahomey army instead. In most parts of West Africa, wheeled vehicles were only seldom used since waves of the tsetse fly had the tendency of killing off horses, thus rendering the carts useless, or in some cases, simply relegating them to being pulled by men only instead, just as the kings of Dahomey did, or in some cases, Europeans adopted the same practice. Throughout the 19th century, several wheels were constructed in the kingdoms of Bagrami and Bornu to mount cannons, and in some cases, the cannons themselves as well as their shot and powder were also locally manufactured. Early documents describe how Europeans manufactured wheeled gun carriages with the assistance of African blacksmiths, and claimed that the wheels were subjects of great wonder among the locals. In conclusion, despite the wheel being popularly portrayed as some sort of primal caveman technology, it is actually a fairly recent and highly specialized development that has only been independently invented perhaps a couple times throughout history. The vast majority of wheel use throughout the world's history was a result of trade and exchange of ideas from people who had already adopted it rather than local invention. Africans were not the only people who lacked the wheel. Wheels were virtually absent in all parts of the world, with the exception of Eurasia, with limited use in parts of North Africa and some isolated regions of sub-Saharan Africa. Mesoamericans are proven to have definitively invented functional wheels on their own, but they never reached a point of utility beyond children's toys, and the Inca of the Andes Mountains had one of the world's most expansive road systems and domesticated pack animals, but they still never developed the wheel, likely due in part to the largely hilly and mountainous terrain. Wheel technology failed to take hold in Africa, likely due to the difficulty of its use in the terrain of North Africa and the subsequent adoption of the much more efficient camel for the transport of goods, the latter of which caused wheels to become obsolete in most of Africa. The Nupe potters may have represented another rare case of local development of the wheel, but it's also very likely that they adopted them in ancient times from Saharan nomads or Arab traders from North Africa. Once Europeans began trading with sub-Saharan Africans in the 15th century, wheels started to become more widespread, but still highly limited in use, due to the tsetse fly being endemic to the region, which was a vector for the sleeping sickness, a disease that is deadly to most livestock. There was simply no incentive in pre-colonial times for Africans to adopt wheels, but despite this, there are numerous examples of African kingdoms adopting them anyway, and even locally manufacturing wheels once introduced to them. However, they are mostly used for ceremonial purposes or for the transport of heavy guns, and never had a significant advantage in society until modern technology and infrastructure was developed to accommodate them. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you did, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and enable notifications. For sources, check out my website, linked below. If you'd like to support future projects, you can do so there as well, or by clicking the join button below, or by becoming a patron. I hope you all enjoyed the video, thanks for watching as usual, and always remember, we don't come from nothing.